The boss of the Assassin's Creed franchise, Marc-Alexis Cote, has stepped down. Or some people say he has been fired. Okay, let's go over what happened, what I think this means, and if it's good or bad news. So if you don't know, this is Marc-Alexis Cote. He was a creative director on Syndicate, senior producer on Assassin's Creed Odyssey, worked on a lot of other Assassin's Creed games as well, and then in 2022, during the Assassin's Creed Showcase, he became the Vice President Brand Executive Producer, basically the top man on the Assassin's Creed franchise. And during this stream, he is kind of talking about the new vision for the series. Of course, we just had Valhalla in 2020, the most successful Assassin's Creed game ever, reaching $1 billion in revenue. Then, 2021, nothing really happened. 2022, nothing really happened. Well, this showcase happened where they announced Mirage, and then of course Red, Hexe, Red turned out to be Shadows, etc, etc. What has happened since then is that Ubisoft is obviously not doing too hot, and that caused basically Tencent to come in. Tencent already owned a significant stake in the Guillemot brother company that is obviously controlling Ubisoft. Of course, the Guillemot brothers own the company. Yves Guillemot is, of course, the CEO. And now they are doing something new in October. So, October 1st, some time ago, not too long ago, Ubisoft launched a new subsidiary, Vantage Studios. And we see the franchises here already, Rainbow Six, Assassin's Creed, and Far Cry. Basically, they are transferring these franchises into this new subsidiary, giving a new leadership. Some studios are transported to this subsidiary as well, and their focus is just on these franchises. While normally, of course, previously, you had Ubisoft overseeing all the things they are doing, Just Dance, all the other Tom Clancy products, the Raymans, and I don't know, they have a lot. Of course, the Steeps, the Riders Republic, Season 28. They're still chugging along. So this is the goal of Vantage Studios. The goal of Vantage Studios and future creative houses is to facilitate stronger and deeper connections between developers and players. This streamlined approach allows for both a higher level of autonomy for developers and a shorter pathway between gathering and implementing player feedback, while still offering the benefit of Ubisoft's expertise, services, tools, and tech. Another big reason why they were spinning out these three franchises into this subsidiary is because Tencent is now even more involved. They invested $1.25 billion in this subsidiary and own 25% of it. And likely Tencent was like, okay, we want to make an investment, we're going to help you out financially, but we only care about the three biggest franchises. We don't care about the Ghost Recons and the Division and all that other stuff, although those are still pretty big franchises. No, we see way more potential in Far Cry, Assassin's Creed, and Rainbow Six. And if you really think about it, I would argue every Ubisoft franchise was at a higher point. Like, it's not as big as it once was, basically. So they see a lot of potential. And of course, with the industry overall really moving in the direction of, let's just focus on the big franchises that we have, instead of trying new things. It's kind of the sad reality, but yeah, a lot of companies are doing that. And that Vantage Studios, they of course are saying the right thing here. We'll have to wait and see. But I talked about it in the Sunday video as well. I really think the Battlefield 6 situation is a case study for a lot of these companies. That was really a shorter pathway between gathering and implementing player feedback. Of course, EA had the whole Battlefield Labs where they were testing the game for over a year before they announced it. They had YouTubers come to DICE to give feedback. They were giving way more. They were listening way more to people from outside the studio to make the game that ended up being very, very good and what people actually wanted because they listened. And that seems to be what Ubisoft wants to do as well. But then we get to Marc-Alexis Cote. So over on LinkedIn, he dropped the following message, because we already heard rumblings about him leaving, but it seems that it was not his idea. Ubisoft decided to transfer the leadership of the Assassin's Creed franchise to someone closer to its new organizational structure. A different position was mentioned, but it did not carry the same scope, mandate, or continuity with the work I had been entrusted with in recent years. But I also owe it to my teams, past and present, to say this plainly. I did not walk away. I stayed at my post until Ubisoft asked me to step aside. So again, I saw people say, he was fired. He was demoted, basically. They were like, thanks for your work. We now have someone else who will take it over. We would still like you to be part of the Assassin's Creed franchise, but you will likely not make the final say. And you will now have someone above you where, yeah, that will make the final choices. So, sure, you could, like, yeah, he was not fired. He was not like, dude, get out. He was offered a new position, but that position was not the same as what he did. And we can speculate a lot. Why did this happen? Are they not happy with what he did? Etc., etc. But like I said at the start, I really think, like, he came in 2022 into the Assassin's Creed franchise. I really think a lot of his decisions have still not played out yet. So I think it's kind of hard to point to him and being like, yeah, he did not, like, I still think that his full vision was still in the very early stages. So let's look at what his vision was, and then we can kind of, yeah, get a better sense for it. So in 2022, again, they had the Assassin's Creed Showcase, and they had a big blog post on the Ubisoft website. And one of the big things was moving on to Period 3. So he was talking about, okay, we have Period 1 with all the action-adventure games. That ended with Syndicate. Then we have Period 2, where we had all the RPGs, Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla. And then we're moving on to Period 3. You will see more diversity in the types of gameplay we feature. In Period 3, we want to support our games for longer periods of time. That means that they're not going to be an RPG, or that there's not going to be an RPG every year. We want to support our RPG products, like the one we've just announced, Assassin's Creed Codename Red, which turned out to be Shadows, for a longer period of time. Okay, so we first only had the action-adventure games. We then had only the RPGs. In Period 3, we still want to continue with the RPGs, but we also want to do Hexe, which is more linear, narrative-focused game. Hopefully that will lure in new people to the franchise. It will be something different. And we will bring multiplayer back. We're going to do standalone multiplayer this time. So it's really a focused experience, while the single-player titles can focus on being single-player titles. Then we're going to do the remakes. So people who like the older games, they still, yeah, can enjoy those types of experiences as well. I really think, like, what I think and what people sometimes forget, Assassin's Creed as a yearly franchise, it didn't, at one point it was really, really samey, obviously. The setting was different, the characters were different, but the gameplay was very, very similar because they had to make these every year. So they could not really, really do a big evolution like we saw from Syndicate to Origins, because that is when they finally took the time to create something new. Like, they obviously want to make more Assassin's Creed games because they do think there's an appetite for that, and that is their biggest franchise, their biggest moneymaker, next to Rainbow Six. So instead of making the same game and releasing it every year, they're trying different things. And I think that's a pretty good tactic. And if you think about it, Mirage came out a year after this post, and then we had Shadows. Like, we're still in that, like, we've not seen that vision play out yet and see if that will actually work out. Now, what we did see, and that is kind of interesting, there are two things that we have seen so far from what he is talking about. And yeah, those are not very good. I think him saying we want to support our games for a longer period of time, my prediction right now, I think Shadows will have a shorter post-launch plan than Valhalla. And maybe that is because Shadows did not do as much as they expected. We know about the 5 million players for Shadows, which is not a lot. Mirage had 5 million players in a short, or sold 5 million in a shorter period of time. So basically Mirage sold more than Shadows, which is crazy to think about, comparing the budgets and all that sort of stuff. So you could argue maybe Shadows was not the success, and he was the leader at that point, so maybe they were like, yo, this is not great, and him say, yeah, we're gonna support it for longer. After Hexe is out, Shadows will still get support, and we will see if that actually happens, if it makes sense for them to support Shadows for that long. So I think that is one of the interesting things as well. Another interesting thing, because again, when he took over Mirage, Shadows, Hexe, they were already in development. So I don't know what his impact really was. What he is saying here is pretty good. Like, we're shifting our development model to make it more sustainable for our teams. We previously used an average of about 3 years of development, but now we're moving on to longer development cycles to make them more sustainable. So yeah, that's another good thing, right? Give those teams, they don't need to make a big game every year because they have smaller titles, they have a remake here, they have a multiplayer experience here. So yeah, Hexe, when that releases at the end of next year, that seems to be the plan, it will have been in development for almost 5 years, which is the longest for an Assassin's Creed ever. So let's hope that actually means something. But yeah, another thing is, and this is why I saw a lot of people like kind of celebrate him leaving. There's another wrinkle to this as well. I will get to that later. So in the period 3, we're gonna be better caretakers of the meta story on the franchise through Infinity, which of course the Animus Hub. As the story will live asynchronously but concurrently with all the games that will be on the Infinity Hub. And I really think saying that you take better care of the meta story and of the modern day, and then looking what we get right now, which is just data points that we have to read through a battle pass. No, I feel that this is a significant step down from what we even had with Layla and stuff. So no, we've not seen this yet. But on the other hand, like, to give them the benefit of the doubt, we're also still not even 1 year after the Animus Hub is out, and the Animus Hub was supposed to evolve with every game that has come out, and still only Shadows is part of the Infinity Hub or of the Animus Hub. Black Flag will be added, then we will get Hexe. But when Hexe comes out, see nothing with the meta story, and then I think it's like a huge failure. Right now, it's not great. It's really, really bad. But I always hope that they had some bigger vision that we would see when the other games came out. But to be fair, it's not really, we're not really seeing it. So yeah, again, you can speculate a lot, and I think it's kind of hard to say, but I do think if Ubisoft was happy with how things were going, and Tencent as well, he would have probably stayed on. I think that's a fact. Tencent came in probably and was like, no, we want someone else we have another vision, and what is happening right now is not really working. And yeah, Mac in short is like he's not the person likely to lead this. But yeah, that's another wrinkle to this is, of course, in 2020, a lot of allegations for the toxic workplace at Ubisoft came out. This from August 2020. A lot of the people that are mentioned in this article, they looked at everything they said, and yeah, some people obviously got fired, or were they fired? It was like a really, really weird situation. There's even been a lawsuit against some people, and some of them, like Serge Hasquit, has been found guilty of some of the things that were talked about in this article. But Marc-Alexis Cote was mentioned here too. So that's of course another part. Some sources to Gamasutra, I think this is right. We're telling them about Marc-Alexis Cote. So that is actually another wrinkle to this, being like, okay, if this is all true, it's probably for the best that he's not there. Calling out a number of occasions for knowingly enabling the toxicity. While some sources claimed Cote, who has been a senior figure within Quebec for the best part of a decade, treated them well on a personal level, most agree he knew of the abuse being dished out by senior colleagues and did nothing. I'm informed that one of his favorite tactics was to make employees compete with each other by promising them the same thing or constantly alternating between hot and cold, praising his colleagues one day before insulting them to the next. So that is next to keeping things quiet while knowing that things were going on. He's narcissistic and extremely manipulative, and has absolutely no care for the health of the employees or the studio itself as long as he can keep climbing the ranks, said another source. He is the one that will empower, legitimize, and even protect the other toxic people in the studio. So that's, of course, another wrinkle to this. It's an old article 5 years ago, but if those things were still going on, then maybe that's also for the best that he's no longer in his position. So yeah, that would of course be good for the franchise. It's gonna be hard to see. The Tencent wrinkle is just very interesting because they are known for coming in and being pretty hands off. They invest a lot, and then they're like, now we can just sit back and get it. But they know how to identify like potential things that can work out for them, and it seems to me that they're more hands-on with them really wanting to spin off a different company. 25% they own of those 3 franchises now. I do think they are being more hands-on this time, and we can only follow it and see what happens. But I do think the Assassin's Creed franchise is not in an amazing spot in terms of. I think they're doing some great things, but I also think it might be in the lowest point in terms of popularity, maybe compared to any time in the life cycle. Maybe, of course, when the first one came out, it wasn't that popular, but it has been like going pretty steady. Of course, Assassin's Creed 3 sold a lot. Black Flag was. All these games were a huge success. Only Syndicate did not sell 10 million from all the previous games. And then, yeah, Shadows is an interesting case. But let me know, of course, what you think. I will be following it here. But yeah, I think it's more nuanced than saying, oh, this is amazing news. Amazing news. We don't know what Tencent wants. What their goals are. We don't know who's going to take over. Yves Guillemot's son is now in charge of Vantage Studios. That's another wrinkle where, like, was he really the best person that is going to lead these 3 big franchises? Does he have the experience? Or was it just because he's the son of the CEO? So, still many things. We will have to wait and see. But, yeah, that's my take on it. Subscribe, and I will speak to you soon. Goodbye.